Hey everyone, it's Nick here, also known as Gaming and Stuff. I want to share my thoughts on Final Fantasy XVI before it comes out, and I think it looks really good. Have, I hate to jinx it by saying I think it's going to be, it's going to be really good, prematurely. But looking at like trailers and hearing the developers talk about it, it seems like they knew what they were doing when they made it. They know what they're doing when it comes to characters, story, design the game, philosophy. It seems like they know what they're doing. It seems like, it's not just another hot mess like 15 was. They didn't know what they're doing. The game didn't know what it wanted to be. It really just showed, this was such a mess of a game. And another thing that really gives me hope, there's no, and you don't have to buy a movie or, do all this other stuff to understand, even somewhat of understanding what's going on, which I did not like. I saw the movie. I saw it when it first came out, and I just... Sorry, the shadow keeps getting in my face. I thought the movie kind of sucked. It was boring. Too much product. The product placement was stupid. I think it had more product placement. Not kidding there. I think it had more product placement than the Bond movie. I think Insomnia had more products plastered over it than the Bond movie typically has. I'm not joking. Well, the game had it too, but the movie was double. It was double in the movie. Just so stupid. Japan Air, really? I thought this was supposed to be, fantasy world, not our world. Just dumb. So I don't get any sign that will be a problem in 16. I hate to say it too soon, but it doesn't look like they're going to have this stupid ass product placement everywhere. Trying to get as much money as they can. Because they didn't plan it very well. And they lost money in development or something. I don't know what the excuse was. It was money. It was something about money, and I think it was the 13 trilogy. I think that's maybe what it was. I don't know. Because the first game they were spent on, and the sequels didn't really sell as well as they thought. So anyway, it looks like that's not going to be a problem. What else? Combat looks really good. Because, I didn't like 15's combat. It was, for one thing, it was too easy. The only time I thought it was actually a challenge were these certain dungeons where they locked you from using your items. Those were the only times I had to really plan how I was going to go attack it. Like, let's say I used the Magitech suit fully charged. I had to plan out how I was going to go in there, and if it ran out, I'd have to come back to it. I had to actually have a plan because, those are like one of the only times I thought the game was hard, and you actually had to have a strategy going in. And then Omega was a tough battle. Those are like some of the only times in the game, they actually made you really plan and strategize, and really, that was like the only time I really had fun with the combat. Otherwise, the combat was just too easy. It didn't have any real challenge. Just hold two buttons and have items on hand. Just spam items, they're good to go. It didn't really have any challenge. It was just kind of lackluster. I didn't think it was interesting. Again, aside from those few times. And most of the time it was easy to level up in the game. In fact, there are several ways you could, I didn't really have to look them up. I found ways. Not like some of these people where they find out ways you could level up to, I think some people have found ways, if I'm not mistaken, to level up over 30 levels at one time. I never really thought it was hard to level up in the game. It was actually pretty easy. And, anyway. I just thought the game was too easy. The combat was not that good. I think 16's combat looks a lot better. It looks more polished and well put together. And it looks like it'll be challenging at some point. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but it looks like there'll be enough challenge to it. Although, I mean, Final Fantasy games, I guess they're not really the hardest games in the world. I think they generally make it easy on purpose, well, to a degree, but... I mean, 15 was just too easy. There was just no challenge, and there are hardly any boss battles. It looks like there'll be plenty of boss battles in 16, which I'm excited about. You know, I thought they just didn't have enough in 15. There were, like, a couple, and they were pretty much based around QuickTime events. I mean, they didn't really have any... I mean, they're like interactive films. I mean, they weren't really battles. It was just like, you just press some buttons and you'll do fine. So... it looks like it'll be really good in the boss battle department, and the presentation looks better too. I mean, it looks more well put together. I mean, it looks to me like 12. I thought obviously 12 was like a really well put together game overall, especially when it came to cinematics. I mean, this looks like it'll be even better. But you know, 12 had some really good cinematics. I mean, when it had them, and I guess 13 did as well. I don't know if I thought they were as good, but. I mean, looking back on it, I think they were fine enough. I mean, they definitely look good. I just don't know if they were, you know, as well put together as 12, you know, or as well thought out. Anyway, 16 looks like it'll be really good in that department, and plot-wise, it looks like it'll be pretty good. I mean, I'm sure it does sound like the overall same thing. A lot of the games are just nonsense about crystals, but it looks like it'll be put together well enough. You know, where I'm playing it, and it's like I have an overall understanding of what's happening. I mean, you know, as much as I can with the typical convoluted crystal stuff they have in these games, which is the typical plot. It's like a typical plot of these games, something about crystals. Though it looks like it'll have a good amount of summons as well. I mean, it looks like summons are going to be a big part of the game. And I think the last time they had a game based around a lot of summons was like 10. You know, 10 had the plot was revolved around getting summons to defeat Sin, and I guess followed by 13. 13 came close enough. You know, the summons, you know, being linked to all the characters and then having to gain the strength, you know, continue on, that kind of thing, as I remember. I think the character designs look pretty good. I don't know if they are as vibrant as, you know, some of the earlier ones, but I mean, they look pretty good. They look like, from what I've seen, they look closer to like what they have in 12. I know 12 are, I guess they're a bit more colorful. They look closer to that. They look like 12 and 14, obviously 14, Nier Automata. I mean, they look like that kind of design, which I like. I think it looks pretty good. I like the aesthetic of the game, the kind of darker aesthetic, the emo, some would call it the emo look. I like it. It's gonna be gloriously emo, which I love. You know, it's gonna be a darker one. You know, it looks like maybe they want to do that with 15, but it didn't really pan out entirely that way. But it looks like it'll deliver better this time. It being darker. I don't know how dark it will be. I'm sure it will still be corny to some degree. I mean, these games are, like most JRPGs, are corny to some degree or another. So I'm sure it'll still be corny enough. You know, I looked up online on the website about some of the characters, and the character Joshua, Clive's younger brother, was talking about something about how he doesn't like to eat carrots and stuff, and it seems like they'll still have the typical corny JRPG stuff in there. I don't know how much it'll be there, but I'm sure it will be there. I'm sure they're not going to take itself seriously 100% of the time. Music, I don't know. I haven't heard anything about music. I've never heard the composer's work before. I haven't played anything that he's composed, so I guess that will be new for me. I can't really comment. I haven't heard anything. Voice acting, I heard some of the clips. It sounds pretty good, although something I'm not sure about is why they don't have any people of color in the game. I mean, the excuse is it was set in the Middle Ages or something like that, but they had people of color then. So I mean, I just don't. I don't know. I guess maybe it was an oversight. They thought that all the people in medieval Europe were white, but I mean, they had some people of color in that period. So anyway, I mean, that is something that kind of baffles me. I mean, I get why they wanted to cast all British people because it's set. They're kind of basing around medieval Europe, or England, I guess. I don't know exactly, but no people of color. I don't know. I guess they won't have any like races like Vieira and Ronzo, the furry races. I don't know if they'll have them or not. Apparently, they're supposed to have Mughals. It'll be the first time they've had Mughals. Since the last time they had Mughals in the main games was 13.2 and Lightning Returns. So this will be the first time they've been in the games. But the last time they had it in the main title, main single player title was Final Fantasy XII. That was the last time they had Mughals. So I would be interested to see how they incorporate Mughals into it. Like I said, they'll still find a way to get the typical corny stuff in there that everybody loves about these games, myself included. So it's going to be there, I'm sure, but how much of it will be there, I don't know. Oh yeah, another thing. Let's plug this in real quick. Battery's low. Another thing about the game which I like is they have female party members, although you can't control them. I think it's great they brought females in. It seems like they're going to use them better. I thought something I didn't like about 15, but they didn't really do the female characters justice in that game, which annoyed me. I mean, it just seemed like they were just accessories to male characters. Like, the only one in that game that really had any real agency in anything was Aranea, but they barely had her in the game. So that, to me, was disappointing. They didn't have give the females any real power or agency. I mean, they just seemed like they were just there just to serve the men. I mean, that's all they were there for. They didn't have any real purpose other than that. And you didn't get having the party. I mean, the only time you had Aranea in the party was on occasion she would show up, but you barely needed her. I mean, it was like really just to help you fight enemies, and by the time you're done with them, I mean, they were just, it was over. I mean, you could have her the only time you really got to use her that much is an episode prompter, but of course you have to have that DLC, and, it's not a very long DLC, so you barely really get to use her. You didn't really get to know her very much, so. Anyway, I'm glad they're giving females more in the game, more use, and more of a role in the game. Not just, like I said, I guess I need to reiterate, but being in the party apparently, but you can't control them. They're going to be AI controls, so I guess I'll have to see how that, turns out. What else? Apparently, there's supposed to be no load times. But I guess they're going to have the typical thing they have in a lot of games. I mean, it's nothing new. These newer games, they have these areas where you have to walk, or shimmy through an area. I mean, it's nothing new. I mean, they had it in, like Resident Evil 7, Village. They had it in, what else they have those sections in? Like Resident Evil 2 Remake. I mean, they've had them. I mean, I don't really think they're that bad. I think it's going to be nowhere near as. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to be very long. I mean, I don't know how long they'll be, but I'm sure they won't be very long segments. It looks like to me they're not going to have those long load times. That was one of my other, aside from the combat and how they treat the female characters in the game, and having to buy all this other stuff to even have a vague understanding of what's going on. Another thing that annoyed me about 15 was the load times. Way, way, way too long. and I thought they would be improved on the PS5. My roommate, he got it from the PlayStation collection, Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. He said the load times are still too long. And he said, he even told me he forgot how horrendously long they were. I mean, they are just way, way too long. Just to load the game up. It's too much time wasted sitting on one's ass, waiting for the game to start. I mean, it's just a waste of time. And honestly, the game wasn't worth the wait, so it's not really worth the wait, to get in there. Like, the one other thing about the game was the open world kind of sucked. I mean, I feel like they kind of threw it in there because the 13 games are so linear. They just, said, well, we better toss an open world in there, because people did not like how linear the 13 trilogy was, which, I mean, I guess I've softened toward it over time, but, initially I hated it too. It's just all you're doing is running through tunnels the whole game, pretty much. Aside from one area, but, I'm kind of surprised I had an issue with it, because I still have fondness for 10, but I don't know, I think going back to it, I don't know if it's as good as I used to think it was. I go back to that, and it's the same thing. You're just running through corridors. The whole game is a tunnel run. I mean, it's not very inspiring level design. So anyway, I guess I see why they put the open world in, but it didn't really mount anything. It's just an open world, just so they could say, oh yeah, we put an open world in. But, we didn't bother to put anything in there. We just put it there, and there's walls everywhere. It's not complete. There's, like, nothing to see in it, pretty much. I mean, it looks great and everything, but there's nothing to do in it. All you're doing is just driving through most of it. And you don't even really get to drive unless, like, the only time you really get to control the car that much is if you're flying it or off-road. I mean, the off-road thing was kind of, I don't know, bit clunky. I had trouble, it's been a while since I've done it, but I remember the off-road thing kind of sucked. Again, there's nothing to see off-road. There's, like, stuff all over the place in the way. It sucked. And then the flying car thing, I mean, it's great until you realize that there are barriers that you can't see, and then you crash, and it's like the game ends, and then, oh, guess what you get to do? You get to sit and wait more for load time. I say, screw that. So anyhow, where was I? I kind of got tangent. Oh yeah. Anyway, apparently the game's supposed to be in zones like Final Fantasy XII, but I don't think it's going to have all these sections like 12. 12 had all these sections because it was a PS2 game originally, so they had to have all these different areas divided up. I mean, like, what's the area? Oh yeah, like, let me think, an example. Oh, the Giza Plains. The Giza Plains has, it's like one general area, but they had to split it up into, let me think offhand, I think 3 to 5 different areas, so, no, actually more than that. I think it's divided up into over 10 sections. I mean, if it were a new game today, it would probably be just one large area, or maybe a couple areas, I don't know, but it wouldn't have, like, 10 areas. So I think that's how, I think 16 is supposed to be, like, 12, but, less areas divided. The areas won't be all chopped up like they were in 12. I think it'd be like, 14 would be perhaps the closest thing to how the areas are supposed to be divided up. Or, not divided up, but mapped out. Like, there's a desert area in the game. I don't know what they're going to call it. I guess all these games have to have a desert somewhere, right? Somewhere or another, they have to have a desert area, an ice area, and I guess they're kind of formulaic when you get down to it. To some degree, they're all formulaic. But it looks like this one's gonna, again, I think it's gonna, or not, I guess not again, but I think they're gonna, turn the formula on its head just enough where it'll work, but it won't be such a mess like, 15 was such a mess, it won't be like that. I think it's actually going to work this time. I mean, I hate to say speak too soon, and it turns out it doesn't work, but I mean, I get the sense the game's going to work. I mean, I was initially, I was just really bitter over 15 because I just thought the game was a, to some degree, and there was like a money grab. I mean, it just seemed like they were just trying to make money off of it, selling us a half-done game and all these promises of them they're gonna finish it, and they're gonna give us all this stuff that wasn't in there, and yeah, it didn't really pan out the way it was supposed to. It was just a disappointing game. Disappointing unfinished campaign, unfinished open world, etc. It seemed like they had a lot of passion for it, making 16. So I feel like it's going to be pretty good. Again, I mean, it could end up being disappointing, but to me, it looks like it's going to be really good. I mean, I have some good hopes for it. I'm sure we'll have some issue or another with issues. I mean, all these games, let's face it, all these Final Fantasy games are all, to some degree or another, they have issues. I mean, I guess it depends on the game how many issues they have. Like a game like Final Fantasy, like, let's just say 12, for example, it has some issues, but overall the game is still pretty, at least I thought it was still a pretty enjoyable game. In fact, I went back to it and I thought the game was actually a lot better than I remember it being. I mean, it has some problems, but I mean, the game I thought overall was pretty good. It was executed pretty well. I mean, it has some things that are dated to it, but they still did a pretty good job with it, even with some of the development issues it had. And then you have a game like 15 that has so many issues, that, quite frankly, it just gets in the way. I mean, I thought it got in the way of the game, like all the load times, the story just being a mess. The game just felt rushed overall. I mean, that kind of thing. So I'm sure 16 will have, I'm predicting it will have issues, but they won't be issues that are really get in the way of people enjoying the game. At least I feel like I'm not going to have issues enjoying the game because of issues like load times being excessively long, an open world that is trash and useless open world, having to run through that over and over, drive through it forever. I feel like it's not going to have those kind of issues, but I'm sure they'll be minor. Like, I mean, I can't think offhand what the issues might be, but anyway, like I said, long story short, I feel like they're going to be there, but they're going to be relatively minor issues. Now, I hear the game apparently has no dungeons, or extra dungeons, so I guess we'll have to see how that is. Which is kind of disappointing, but I guess it is what it is. I guess they wanted to focus on delivering, a story that, is compelling and gripping, you can get into. Character. I don't know how the characters are going to be. I guess we'll have to see how they are. I thought, what am I saying? I feel like the game, I'm guessing at least the main cast of characters will be able to get people into the story and what's going on. Even if the story, quite frankly, can be convoluted, at least you'll be able to be interested in the characters of the game. So that should be, if that's at least the case, then it can carry, story's not that great. Like, I thought 10's characters were pretty good. The story, quite frankly, kind of sucked in that game, but at least the characters, carried the game enough. Carried the game pretty well to overcome the issues that story had. And going back to play 13, or watch 13 anyway, I played it at least once since, I originally played it a few times. And I've seen other people play it. I'm looking back, I think the characters of the game, at least the main cast, I mean, I know a lot of people don't like them. I didn't initially, but, looking back at it, I think it actually makes sense why they are like they are in the game. At least I can understand why they are. Even if the plot is a bit of a mess, at least I get why they are like how they are in the game. And I can at least care what they're going through, even if the story is a load of rubbish. Like I thought 10's story, looking back, it's a bit of a rubbish story, rubbish, messy plot, but the characters, at least, they carry it over that. I mean, let's face it, the story could be great in the game. If the cast of characters, sucks, if it's not a good cast of characters, it, kind of lowers the story down. For me, it kind of lowers it down quite a bit. If I don't care about the characters, why should I care about the plot? Why should I care about what's happening in the plot? Or if at least there's at least one or two that are good. Like 12, most of the cast, they weren't really that great, but, Ash and Bosch were really good. I thought they carried the plot well enough. I didn't hate anyone in the cast. There weren't any characters I thought were irritating. Even Vaughn, people criticize. I didn't think he was that bad. I thought he was fine. I just thought that the worst thing he was, what's the word? Unremarkable, but I didn't find him irritating. He wasn't like a character I wanted to kill or anything. It wasn't irritating like that. But the only people in that cast I thought really that good were Ash and Bosch. Balthier, I guess. Yeah, that's what I mean. Bosch, I felt like I thought the other ones had potential. I just thought they didn't really incorporate him as well as they did with Balthier and Ash. But playing it again, I thought they were done pretty well. They carried the story enough. They lifted it. Otherwise kind of bland cast, they lifted it well enough. But a game like well, maybe it's not a good example. I was going to say Final Fantasy VIII, but the story in that game was horrendous. It was worse than 10s and 13s, I thought. I guess that's not a good example. I can't think of an example of a game that has a story that's done pretty well, but I care less about the cast of characters. Anyway, I guess I should move on from that. Now, the artwork of the game looks pretty good. I like some of the way the levels that I've seen. I haven't seen a whole ton. They haven't shown a whole ton of what these areas look like, but from what I've seen, they look quite amazing. Like, they had this area, I guess some kind of castle. I don't know where it is in the game. I guess when I play it, I'll start to remember all these places, probably. It was like... remind me of the Palace of Altissia, in the, it's in basically the game's version of, what is it, Venice, I guess. Remind me of something like that, but it looked like it was done better. Like, it looked more original. Like, that was another thing about 15 I wasn't big on. It seemed like a lot of the areas just seemed really uninspired, like, basically, Altissia was basically just Venice. Let's face it, it's just Venice. Insomnia, I guess it's a version of Japan or something. I don't know. They use the N, I guess they use the N in it. I guess it's supposed to be their version of Japan. I just thought the areas, they just didn't look very inspired. They weren't really inspiring. Like, 13 had some areas that looked really cool, and 12, they typically had areas that looked really cool, and then you go to 15, the areas just looked really uninspired. Like, the only area in that game I thought was really that good was not because of the area itself, but the area where they had Shiva's cadaver was quite nice. Well, I guess you can imagine why I thought that was quite nice. And they actually fully rendered the Shiva cadaver in the game. I guess cadaver, as they called it, looked more like a giant statue. It was actually... They actually fully rendered it. It wasn't just an illusion. They actually rendered every inch, every curve. Every inch, every curve, every detail was rendered. So, you could actually look it up. Some people have actually used Armiger to fly over there and look at it. I can't remember how they actually broke the game. I'm not going to personally bother, as I'm not going to sit through all those load times, but could actually look it up. It's quite nice. I actually started to drool from it. It was quite erotic. So, you know, guys out there, it's definitely something that, to me, it's like the area in the game that was, worthwhile. Other than that, yeah, I wasn't really big on the other areas. So anyway, the video's getting kind of long. What else should I talk about? I think. Oh, the monster design looks quite good in the game. It looks like that was something like, I mean, one of the few things I liked about 15 was the enemy design in the game looked quite good. It was quite well done. It's just too bad the game that they were in sucked, but like the mob rolls in the game looked really good. The tomberries, I mean, they all look great. They all look stunning. Like I said, great enemy design, crap game. It looks like, they finally put those great enemy designs, they put them into a game that's actually going to be good. Well, at least it looks like it'll be good. So it looks like it's going to be, utilize, those great enemy designs, or looks like them anyway, will finally be in a game that's good. Or, like I said, it seems like it'll be good. I mean, I guess we'll have to see when it releases how it is, but... what else? Oh, the summon system in the game looks a lot better. I mean, this is the first time they've... it's a new concept for summoning. They have the main characters of the game. I don't know how they do it. It looks like animorphs. Apparently they transform into the different summons. Like I said, I'm sure it'll be corny to some degree. These people, they apparently turn into summons. But it looks pretty cool, but like I said, it's going to be corny to some degree or another. I mean, it's a Japanese game, so, I mean, I guess this comes with the territory. But, yeah, the designs for them look really good. Like Shiva looks really good. Titan. It looks like they'll have the giant, what are they called? I can't remember the name of the giant monsters. What are they? Oh, kaiju. There's the kaiju battles. Like they had in 15, but it looks like they'll be done a lot better. So I feel like I said, I feel like they're doing 15 the way 15 honestly should have been if it were done well. And for anyone interested in what 15, I guess, was supposed to be, I mean, I don't know what the game was going to be originally. It never seemed like they had any real plan for it. This always seemed, from what I've seen, it always just looked like a generic action game. With a bunch of a bunch of dudes together. It didn't look like anything. Quite frankly, I didn't think it was ever going to be that great. I mean, it was going to be at least decent. I guess if it were done well, it would have been decent. But I mean, it turned out to be crap. But anyway, it looks like they'll be using cut content from Versus 13. They're going to use it apparently. From what I've heard about Kingdom Hearts 4, apparently they're supposed to be using it for that game, and I've seen some trailers. It looks like that's going to be what they do with it. I don't know how they're going to fit into the dense Kingdom Hearts lore. I never really followed the lore in those games. They're too what's the word? Like somebody did a video on 15 where they called it BTS Adventures, and they said, from the people at the Square Enix Asylum, and it's like that kind of thing. It's not nutty nonsense. I mean, I don't. Again, when it comes to those games, I don't really bother to follow the lore in those games. I mean, it wraps itself up in circles so much. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, there are people who say it makes sense. I'd like them to look me in the eye personally and tell me, yes, it actually does make sense, and here's why, without sounding like a lunatic, a lunatic and this babbling bunch of nonsense. I'd like him again. I like him to say it straight, and not come out looking like a loon, someone in loony bin. Again, I don't try to follow it. To try to describe the plot of these games, I feel like it would just go on. You'd have to. It just that would sound like a Looney Tune trying to, try to describe the basic premise of the series. Anyway, that's not what I follow them for. I follow them more like, what's the word? I don't know if I call it fan service. I guess fan service in the sense, they try to please, not the typical sense like, the Shiva cadaver. Like, they have all these Disney references and, well, they used to anyway, the Final Fantasy characters, that kind of thing. Anyway, I don't know how they're going to fit that into Kingdom Hearts 4. It looks like, I guess maybe they're trying to go in a different direction with the games. I have no idea. I guess we have to see how it turns out, but anyway, apparently they're supposed to use content from Versus 13. They're going to put it into Kingdom Hearts 4. I don't know. It looks kind of interesting. I might end up getting it. At least it looks like it'll be a fun action game, if anything. So I might just get it. I've played every main title. 1, 2, and 3. I've played them all, so at least once. So I might get it. It would also make. I'm sure it'd make a really good live stream collection as well. So I may go and do it. So anyway. So I'll probably end up getting it. It looks like I'll be able to get the game in. It comes out in June. I'll have the money, it looks like, at least to get that one. I'm hoping to also get Resident Evil 4 Remake. That's another one that looks really good. I played the demo for it, and, I was quite stunned of how good they did with it. I've heard it. I haven't looked into it too much. I don't want to spoil how it. But for myself, I wanted to go through it as fresh as possible. I know it follows the overall premise of the original, but they've updated things in a way that, frankly, seems like it's quite better. Like, I played through the demo, and it just seemed like a lot better than the original. I tried to play the original, and it just, I don't know, it hasn't aged entirely great. It comes across a bit goofy now. I guess it's something that comes with territory. I don't know. It just seems like it's one of those things where, it comes across as being goofy. It hasn't really aged entirely well. Like, some of the dialogue is goofy. Like, I looked at Salazar in the game, for example. He looks like his design is improved. It looks more menacing. I thought his original design was a bit goofy. I think they did improve his design. It looks more menacing than he did before. I think it's an improvement. I think Ash, her design, I think it's an improvement, to be honest. I can't really explain why exactly, but, it's just one of those things I look at and I just know it seems like an improvement. It seems more fitting, for a character than, honestly, the original design. The original design was cuter. I'm not going to say it wasn't cuter, but it didn't. I don't really feel like it fit her character as well. It seemed like, kind of more fan service angled. Same with Ada. I think her design was hot back then. I'm not going to say it wasn't. It was quite hot, but I think her new style in the game, it seems more fitting for someone who's a commando, special agent to be wearing, than a cocktail dress. So I think in ways it looks like a huge improvement. I've heard a lot of people say it's a lot better than the original, so I can't wait to try it. Anyway, I can make sidetrack again, so I think I better end this video. I think I've already kind of covered a lot of my thoughts. I think the game 16 will be pretty good. I'm sure it will, like I said, it'll have some problems, like all these games do. But I seem to think it's not going to be problems that will be will get in the way too much of enjoying the game. I think they'll be relatively minor. Anything, I'm kind of predicting the problems might show up by maybe late in the game. Like 12, I thought the experience was pretty good, but I thought some of the areas in the game late in the game were kind of the problem with the game, like Pharaoh's Tower, but those are like late in the game, and I mean overall I thought the game was pretty enjoyable. I thought it was actually better going through it in 10. I mean, I don't know if I was quite as attached to the cast of the game overall, but I don't know. I think I liked the game better. I liked the soundtrack better, the level design better. I just think it was more fun. It's more replayable to go through again. Oh, actually, one more thing. I guess before I end the video, I don't know what the skill tree in the game will be. Like I know every game since 10 they've had some kind of skill tree. Like 10 had the spear grid, 12 the license board, 13, 13-2, the Crystarium, and then 15 had the Ascension board, I think it was called. And like I know 10 introduced it, and I used to think it was great. I used to swear by the Spirit Grid, but going through it again, I mean, it hasn't aged great. Like, I mean, you have to go look for all these components. I feel like they've improved it in future games. Like 13 thing is basically the same thing. Like, you can't tell me unless you're going to deny it. You can't tell me that the Crystarium isn't almost identical to the Spirit Grid. I mean, for one thing, it just gives the illusion of choice. You basically get points to go down the thing. You don't really get levels like 12 and 15. You get characters level up normally. You get stats from that. You get boosts from that. I mean, that's another thing about 15. One thing I could at least say about the game that it did well, or was decent anyway. Now, so I guess decent was the way they execute the Ascension board. You get the normal character levels, and then the board. It's the right idea overall. The board you can get boosts from it, and it's the extra boost. Aside from the typical level ups, you get you can unlock extra stat boosts. New abilities. I feel like that's how it should. I feel like that's overall the right idea for these type of skill trees. Like, replaying 10, I thought the spear grid was kind of stupid, to be honest. Like, I mean, I feel like they should just put in, like they did with 12, I mean, that was better, where you get the character levels and you can get, like, stat boosts and, extra stuff on the board and new abilities. Like I'm actually replaying 10 right now. I just don't like it. The spear grid just kind of, it feels clunky. It hasn't really aged great. I mean, I guess it was their first attempt, but anyway, I feel like they've done it better in every game since, and I feel like 16 won't be any exception. I just don't know how they're going to do it. I hope they're going to do it like they did with 12 and 15. The overall idea of having the characters level up normally, and then you can get extra boosts and stats on the board, or whatever it's going to be. I don't know. I'm guessing it'll be a board. I'm guessing something like that. I don't know what the theme will be. I know, well, 10's board was kind of generic. That was another kind of issue I had with the thing, was just a generic looking thing. It looked kind of crappy. It looked like what Alvin Alchemist said about it. I guess I have a lot of nostalgia for the game. I can't really badmouth it too much. I have a lot of fondness for Final Fantasy X, but it has a good chunk of issues to the game. Looking back at it, it's definitely, honestly, I think it's more flawed than 13 looking at it. It has more issues. I think nostalgia smooths over them for me, but it has more issues than 13 does. Like, the design of the board just looks terrible. It just looks like, it just looks really uninspiring. It just looks like somebody smeared dog crap all over a steel plate, and threw a bunch of marbles all over it. It just looks really lame, and just really generic. It doesn't convey what the game is trying to do, the story and everything. Like, at least 12, I feel like it ties into the Kingdoms at War, these characters kind of like components in a bigger picture. Like, it fits that. 13 thing fits in with, these this group of people who are basically chosen, chosen by these gods to carry out their tasks. They, what's the word? Their ultimate goal is completed and then turn to crystal. I mean, anyway, it ties into that. Crystarium, it has crystals on it, ties into it. 15 thing ties into the whole astrology thing, I guess. Horoscope, I don't know, that kind of thing. Now with 16s, I don't know what they're going to do for the theme. I'm not really sure. I'm guessing it'd be something. I'm guessing it'll have something to do with revenge, because that seems like the overall theme they're going for. With let's see, revenge or my thought. I just thought about it. It might be like each character gets a board and it has like a summon on it, or they're summoned, and it's laid out. They're summoned in the backdrop, and it has all these nodes on it. I'm thinking it'd be something like that. I would like, for example, Clive's, he's supposed to be a Freet, so my thought would be he'll have his own board. It'll probably have a Freet in the background, and or maybe him morphing into a Freet, and then it'll have all these different skill tree type of nodes, like unlock X ability, upgrade Y stat, that kind of thing. But I mean, I could be wrong. But it seems like they're going to tie into to some degree, what they're going for with the game story and everything. So anyway, I guess I better end this video. It's going a bit long. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my video, and I can't wait to get the game. I'm going to stream it when it comes out. So yeah, I can't wait. I think it's going to be pretty good. I get good feelings from it. I mean, so good enough. Like I said, I was disillusioned by 15, but looking at 16, I think it's going to deliver. I'm willing to take the plunge and buy it. If anything, at least it'll be a fun action game. It looks like it's going to be an enjoyable enough action game. If anything, it's going to be mature, so that should be interesting. Apparently, there's supposed to be brothels in the game, which that should be fun. The man, that will be fun. Let's just say that. Plenty of hot chicks, I'm glad about that. Anyway, yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice day.